Well, we're live stream. Okay, let's see. Are we live yet? I guess we are.
Are we
Yes.
live yet?
Oops, I'm hearing myself.
I guess we are.
Okay, we are. I had to shut it down. Okay. Good morning, everyone. I am here with Rozetta, my friend, and she's a great grant writer. She's here from Africa right now. And my name is Noura. For those who don't know me yet, we're gonna have this later on YouTube. My name is Noura. Tax and accounting professional and the founder of Noura's Books. I help nonprofit increase funding and stay in compliance. Me and Rozetta, we all usually talk all the time. And this time we thought like, okay, let's talk on Facebook Live and have you join the conversation and ask us any question. I'll let Rozetta introduce herself and tell you the great stuff about her and where she is now.
Thank you so much, Noura. I am so happy to be here with you today. As you said, I am currently in Africa. I am an international grant writer and grant consultant. I specialize in grant consulting, grant readiness, training, as well as grant writing. Right now, I am in the beautiful Botswana, but I've had the opportunity to visit Nigeria. I was also am considering setting up or actually moving towards setting up a location in South Africa. So I am very happy to be here. I just want to say, Noura, I'm so grateful that that you decided that we talked about this, because this very same topic, I think 2 days ago, I was like, oh my God, Noura. And so it was just amazing that you were like, you know what, we need to do this. And so I'm glad that you suggested it, and I'm glad that I was able to join today. You're right. I feel like we talk about this all the time. Like every time we have a conversation, that's the beginning of it.
Yes.
how can we better help these organizations and the community become grant ready and all the things? So
yeah,
are they really ready?
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like everyone gets so excited about something and they want to start an organization starting from a very, very good place and not understanding that what comes with it. Like when you start your organization, you're really starting a business. And I was attending a conference last month, and the speaker was saying, you should know that nonprofit is just a tax code. So instead of being LLC, S Corp, or whatever, you are a nonprofit. That's your tax code. But actually, you are required to do so much work to stay in compliance and to be able to get funded. Like you say, like you cannot just go register, get your determination letter being a 501c3 and say, okay, now let's write grants. No,
Right.
No,
Right.
You cannot do this.
I think what's beautiful about nonprofit organizations is that they are such a grassroots, from the heart type of organization. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind that majority of the nonprofits out there started at somebody's kitchen table, and they were just like, they seen a need. Somebody in the community seen a need and said, okay, let's tackle this issue. And so it comes from a beautiful place, but then it also comes with this place that once you hear nonprofit, it's almost like they believe they're not supposed to make money. Like they are supposed to be broke. And I'm like, no, you're not supposed to be broke. Like you said, it's just a tax determination. It does not mean that your organization cannot make money. In fact, you should be making money.
Exactly. If you're not well off, your organization is not healthy financially, you will not be able to help the cause you started your organization for. And if you are yourself personally not really getting paid, don't do any self-care, then you're not going to be able to grow your organization. It's not from anyone interest, like for anyone interest to do that. And also you have to nurture your staff. You have to have staff. Yes, you do. You have to consider all of these stuff like as an investment. Like, would you go with a business and start a business without no money and you don't get capital, nothing? No, you don't do that. You just like, you have to have a capital. You have to know, like, you have to invest money in order to get money. Same thing with nonprofits. You're not supposed to do everything for free. You're not supposed to hire only volunteer and just do it for free or less than the market. You're not going to be able to retain these employees. And yes, you do have to have a team in order to really stay in compliance and serve the people you started this beautiful organization to serve.
Exactly. So when I think about, it's interesting that you brought up teams, because when I think about teams, the core group of what I would tell in a nonprofit, you know, that person that's like starry-eyed and like, I'm going to have a nonprofit and save the world, whatever the case may be. The number one thing I like to tell them is your team, your core team should be, of course, your executive, well, your board. Make sure as you're choosing your board, you are choosing people that actually have buy-in. They want to be a part of this organization. They believe and they trust in what you do, and they want to help you financially, because that's part of what the board needs to do. They need to give, and well, part of their role is to be fiscally responsible for the organization in itself. So once you've selected that amazing board, now, when you're looking at the core team of who's doing what and who's on first, of course, your executive director, your accountant, your bookkeeper, like then your grant writer and your program director. Like, I believe that those are the core, that's the core team. Those are the people that you either want to consult with. If it's such a small organization and you don't have an on-staff grant writer or on-staff bookkeeper, if you can consult with the bookkeeper, consult with a grant writer, that begins to help you build out everything else. You know, if you have that program director and you are creating solid programs with all the things, you know, like SMART goals, objectives. You have a very clear vision and mission of what that project is going to do and what's going to happen. Then I think if you need volunteers to help do that, that's great, you know, to help actually execute the program. But you need a staff that is your core, or consultants, or a team that is your core, the core of your organization, because that's how you grow. I think without your bookkeeper, you don't know how much money you have. Without a grant writer, you're not bringing in additional money, you know? So yeah, that was a great point to bring in. Yeah.
And for people like, you know, it's okay. You need to have volunteers, but you have to have a team to manage the volunteer. And now we are in, you know, like post COVID or with COVID, whatever it is, we don't know, like with the cases, but it's a great opportunity actually for nonprofits to do a lot of things with less money. You can hire an expert grant writer or an expert accountant, expert program director, without really have them as an employee. Just, you know, they have their own consultant company. You pay them, actually, no matter how much you pay them, you are saving money, because when they are your consultants, first of all, you have this great experience, because this is not someone trying to learn, and you're paying with the cost, like for learning, even if you don't pay money, but you're losing money
for training.
Exactly. And then you pay for that expertise, and you don't have to pay payroll taxes, which is really breaks some businesses. Like payroll taxes can become so much. So if the person costing you $2,000, for example, like it end up like double or maybe trouble, depending on benefits, on other stuff, on where do they live, just because, you know, what you have to contribute for payroll taxes and all these filing requirements. While if you have consultants, you get all this experience because they have been working with other people. They have long years of experience. They have other team members in their consultants company that can, all these brains comes together, and then they get you the result faster, save you money, get you money faster, tell you what really the roadmap to the success. So you can, instead of doing this with 10 years or 15 years, or maybe you have to shut down your organization because you couldn't make it, you can see results within 1, 2, 3 years, and you can be making millions and very successful.
I agree 100%. You know what? I want to go back to a point that I've made about who your core team should be. And I forgot to mention your HR person. That person is vital because that person is definitely helping you create all of your documentation that you need for any employees or volunteers. Because even if you are an organization that runs off of volunteers, you still need a handbook. You still need some type of policy and procedure to show them how to move to the next level. So sorry about that, but to make a point off of what you were saying, when you engage with a consultant, along with, you don't have to pay health insurance. You don't have to pay all the things that it takes and requires to be a employee. So consulting, I don't know. I mean, it's something to consider, like you said.
Yeah.
So a couple of the things that I wanted us to talk about today, or that we had kind of been thrown around, is if you're really grant ready, and what does that look like, right? Because I, as a young grant writer, would be so excited about going into an organization and ready to write. And so, like, I am truly a visionary. So when I see this organization and I hear their ideas, I'm like, yes, let's do this, let's do that. I'm so excited and I'm ready to move to the next level. And as a young grant writer, many times have I gotten an organization to that place where we've written the grant, we are about ready, and then I'm like, wait, what? You don't have what document? Hey, your finances haven't been audited in how long? Oh, okay, this is a problem. And so that is what really, in my own business, made me shift to looking at readiness and asking those questions up front. Because I'm like, oh, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time. Are you ready? So a couple of the things that, I want to just kind of point out in terms of readiness is the basic organizational registration. And, so because I work in a couple of different places, I realized that every place, even within the United States, every place is different. You need something a little different, state forms for every state that you live in to register your nonprofit. And so when I was going through that and researching and looking at different companies that I'd even worked with and asking those questions, I'm like, man, this is cumbersome. This is a lot. You need to know what you need to have. And even with working internationally, the requirements for Nigeria are different than the requirements for South Africa and different from the requirements of Botswana. So every place has their own nuances. And so part of my first number one thing is know and make sure that you are completely registered. You have all the things, you have those bylaws, you have your determination letter, you are specific if you're in the US. I mean, whatever it takes to make sure that your company is ready to actually write grants.
Yeah, and actually, go ahead.
I was going to ask you, how have you run into that?
So here's the thing, I noticed, like, speaking to a lot of organizations, like in the last few years, everyone just get excited to write a grant. And like you said, your board member have to get you that funding. It doesn't have to be from their own pocket. It can be actually from people in their circle, like they can support them, they're willing to support them, and then just to fund the initial cost of doing your first program. So if your mission to help orphans, for example. You need to have changed a life of few orphans the way that your mission describes, from your money that you get, either from your contacts, or from your board members' contacts, or from everyone. So you have to be able to implement your first program, hire the staff because you want to show capacity, and then like do that and showcase everything, let people know like what you did, really, like in different forms, different social media, in your newsletter, on your website, you're contacting the donors that supported you, let them know, oh, thank you, this is how your donation helped, like it took us a long way. And that part of the program is your hours, is your team hours. But then when you can go and have everything ready, all the books ready, then you come, okay, Rozetta, now we are ready. We have all the documentation you mentioned, and we already have proof that we can do this change. And we actually have this team member, this team member, this team member. We have a capacity to manage hundreds of thousands of dollars, or maybe millions of dollars. And then when the funders feel that, you think, yeah, they really can do that. So yeah, I'm excited, so I can give them the money.
It's interesting what you said about the board. I mean, one of the things that I, as I mentioned, I do trainings, and in my board training, one of the things we talk about is having your board have a give and get policy, right? Where your board is actually giving a donation, but also going out, reaching into their networks and asking their network, the people in their network, to give to your organization. Because you're absolutely right. When funders look at an organization, they are looking at experience, they are looking at the ability to create an impact. They are wanting to know that, first of all, how do I know I'm going to give you $1 million, and I don't even know how you handle $500, you know?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
How do you show that? And part of that is through the help of your board and through the help of your community. You mentioned having the board give and get, also fundraising. Oh my goodness. I mean, just being able, if you're a young nonprofit and you only have 1 or 2 years, to be quite honest, a lot of funders that are giving 50, 60, upwards of 100,000 or more in grants, they won't look at you because you don't have, as I like to call, the skin in the game. You know what I mean? They want to work with people who have experience and that can show, hey, I know how to manage this money. So when you think about it in those terms, nonprofits need multiple streams of revenue. So kind of like what you were saying at the beginning, you don't have to be a broke nonprofit. You don't have to be. In fact, you shouldn't be. One of the things that as you were mentioning, the board giving you money and really donating back into the cause, putting that information in your annual reports, because those are the things, reaching out to people who have donated. You are creating this relationship. It is really all about relationships. Grant writing, being a nonprofit, however, it's about the relationships that you create and build that help you continually get the funding. And being transparent. Transparency is key. It's key for your community members, for any foundation or grant giving organization, that transparency to say, oh, okay, I seen them on Facebook. They were doing this. And now I see an annual report and it shows this. And, all of these things make a difference along the way.
Yeah, you have to breathe your nonprofit. Actually, you have to live it. And if you don't have time and you still have your job, hire someone to live it with you. So there's someone to show up for you all the time when you are not able to, in order to really build your dream organization and be able, if that's what you want, like to focus full-time on your organization, then you can be able to transfer, because you will be able to replace your income, which is fine. Nonprofits is that your job, so that's fine. And actually for that, because I see a lot of people struggled with that, I created a masterclass that I'll be teaching next week, and I have the link in the comments for you guys to sign up for. It's for free, completely free. We're gonna talk for 2 hours, and it's completely for free. And down below in the comments, there is Rozetta information, my information, and the masterclass information. Feel free to contact any of us. And when we do have this on YouTube,
So it looks like
subscribe
we're
to
breaking up
YouTube
a little
and
bit.
we're gonna have the information. Yeah, what did you say, Rozetta? Sorry. Hey, Rozetta. Can you hear me? Hello. Can you hear me, Rozetta?
So no, it looked like you were breaking up a little bit, but
Oh, okay, we
it
lost
could've
you
been
for a
on my
second.
side. Well, yeah, I think I'm looking forward to your masterclass.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you. And we have
Yay.
people registering like crazy. A lot of people registering. We have 2 dates right now, actually. We have next Wednesday, it's going to be 4 to 6 Central Time. And we have August 31st, same time. It's going to be also Wednesday.
Okay.
I'm not sure if we're going to do it more. It depends on, like, you know, I'll decide later because I cannot commit for later now.
Exactly. I understand.
Yeah.
You are inspiring me. You are inspiring me to do a masterclass.
Yeah, that would
Really.
be awesome. That would be awesome. We're also creating a community on Facebook. So all of those people who are registering for the free masterclass, they will be added to a free Facebook group where like-minded people who are also trying to you know, grow their organization. So it will be a lot of awesome stuff, and we will be providing value to the community on a weekly basis or on a daily basis. We'll see how that will go. Like, depends on the request. Like, what do they want? We'll give you everything you need to grow and to build your organization. So make sure you join the class. And Rozetta, you're going to be there too, right?
Yes, of course, of course.
So she's going to be with us in the group so she can answer your grant writing questions.
Yes, of course. You know, I want to just go back real quickly. A couple of the things when I think about, are you actually grant ready? You know, one of the questions that I consistently get as a grant writer is if I work on a contingency basis. You know?
Yes.
So
yes.
I often hear, so can I pay you out of the grant? Can I pay you out of the grant? And so before I answer, Nora, I want to hear your feedback on what that is and what that looks like when that happens.
Well, it's just like, it's like you are going to the bank and tell them, okay, I have, you know, or going to the bank, they request a business plan, right? Business plan. So do you go and ask a professional to write you a business plan just in case you get funded? You're gonna pay them from that funding? No one's gonna accept that, because and grant is the same thing. It's your business plan for that specific project, and this is unethical to actually do. You will get in trouble, and the grant writer will be in trouble if this has happened. This is unethical, and you can speak more on that side actually. But it's really, I have people asking me all of that all the time. Even though I am not grant writer, I tell them, like, I don't write grant. I just help you get grant ready, help you get your books in order, help you register your organization, help you do your, you know, manage your KPIs and all of these stuff. And also donor management system, help you to implement that and help coach you on that. But I cannot write your grants, but I have great people like Rozetta who can help you with that, but definitely not from the funding. Not from the funding. You have to have that money in order to get the money.
Exactly. So one of the ways that early on, I had a hard time being able to articulate my reason, my no, right? I couldn't figure it out, and I was like, oh, but I don't want to. And then finally, I was reading something. I was reading the Grant Writers Code of Ethics, and it was very clear. Number one. Grant writers do not get paid on a contingency. They get paid for the work that they do. And once I really sat down and I thought about that and I looked at it, first of all, if I was to work on a contingency, I'm wasting your time. If you don't get the grant, I, one, don't get paid. And all the time that we have spent figuring out the grant, developing your program, doing all the things, the writing, we're never getting that back. You know? We are never getting that time back. And then at the end of the day, if it's on a contingency, then that means that document belongs to me and not to you. You don't own your document at that point. And then another reason that I really now feel very comfortable with saying, no, I don't do that, is because the reality is a funder is going to look at that and say, I didn't give you money to pay a grant writer. I gave you money to run a program, you know, and not to pay a grant writer. So I really feel like it just adds a second layer of protection for that organization. And it really speaks to their own transparency. If they can have a line item in their budget, I assume, I'm gonna let you speak for that, that says grant writing. And as long as it's coming out of their organizational budget, then it's not a problem.
Yeah, and like to speak to that, like in your budget, it's okay to put your staff and what, like the person who's gonna manage the money, the person who's gonna be supervising. If you're an executive director and you're putting time on that program, it's okay to put your salary. It depends on allocation, you know, an allocation and how much time are you spending for that. So it's okay to do that. But for the grant writing piece, for that grant, you cannot do that. You cannot do that. And actually, it is a document you have. They can use, I'm going to ask you this question. They can use some of what you wrote, like for applying for other grants. It's going to be easier and takes less time. Is that true or no? Like, I'm going to let you answer this because I'm not 100% sure.
One of the services that I offer is we create templates. I have a wonderful team of writers. I have one writer, she's this amazing analytical brain, and she does a lot of educational grants. And this other one who used to write for software companies. I'm like, oh my God, you ladies are brilliant. But so one of the things that we do in the beginning of our process, we come together and we learn all about your programs and what you want to do. And we create a template. We create a master template so that any grant that you want to apply for moving forward, we have the mission and vision and your reason why. We understand the history and we understand each program intimately so that we can speak to, if the grant says you have endless pages, we can write 100 pages about your program. If it says you have 2,500 characters, we can write 2,500 characters because we're basing it off of that information that we got from you early on. So from your historical things that you've written, and then we come together and we craft a document for you. So we found that being able to craft those templates really is helpful for organizations. Like if we work together 1 year, 2 years, and then you decide like, you know what, I'm going to hire a grant writer, whatever the case may be, we can give you something that creates your starting point, you know, that creates that. So it's not so you don't feel so much trepidation when you get ready to write your first grant.
That's awesome. That's great.
Yeah. So that's really part of, so I guess in the short version, yes, you can have a template document and you can cut and paste and use those certain aspects and elements of a grant, but your grant is only as good as your initial template. You know, so when I'm creating templates, I have this really this template that is just, it goes deep. You're like, oh goodness, I didn't think about that. Oh my goodness, that's a lot, you know, and really being able to do budget justifications right there in the template and have a true understanding of what are your streams of revenue? Why did we write this like this? And how did we create the program the way we did? Very important to me because I think that I want organizations to be sustainable in a way that they are able to one day write their own grants and do their work. Yeah,
amazing. So we have a question actually in the chats.
Okay.
Well, Castro, say, I hope I'm saying your last name right. How do you determine how much to pay a grant writer? I'm gonna like
Mm,
say something and then I'll have you say something about this.
okay.
Yeah. So first of all, for your organization, you have to have a budget. You have to have a goal. This is how much funding you want to have for as the seed money, then to be able to pay an accountant, pay a grant writer, pay an HR person, pay a staff to do the program. So you have to have the budgets and to see like what do you want, what do you really want, and how, you know, and then you can just talk and then you can see, okay, this is how much money we can do, but don't, you cannot say, oh, we have $200 and we're gonna pay an accountant and grant writer, and no one's gonna work for that. Not even if you put someone as a hourly basis, no one's gonna do that. You have to be realistic so you can talk to people. So we do strategy and discovery calls all the time. So like from my end, like I do talk to nonprofits in a strategy call, and I see based on where they are, I give them a code on how can I help them and what really works for them and the stage they are in. And then from that, I give them how much it's gonna cost them. And really I used to discount in the beginning, but really I found myself doing so much work and people are not really serious when they don't know how much they should invest, and they don't really value the work. So now I am really okay, I can give some like reasonable discount for the first month, but then like you would see the value for yourself and you will see how your organization is progressing. But this is just from my part as an accountant and, you know, your CFO for the organization and help you grow your organization. And the individual part and anything other than the grant, I can help you to get to the grant ready. So when Rozetta have you, right, she's happy and she doesn't have to do so much, and I will let her let you know like how she determine like what people should pay for her, so that can help you.
Well, that's actually an excellent question. When I work with or start to interact with new clients, one of the first things I am letting them know or advising them is to have a clear budget, a picture in mind of what you can realistically pay a grant writer. Because part of our process is I work on in both grant readiness as well as the grant writing aspect. So once I also have discovery calls that you can book with me, and we talk about what is it that you need. A lot of times organizations just don't have the foundational grant readiness. So, you know, that becomes a different price from what you need in terms of grant writing. So what I like to do is we have those conversations, and then I ask you, what is your realistic budget? What is your budget? What can you pay? And I can craft a package specifically for you and your organization that is not going to necessarily break the bank. If you come in and you say, you know what, I want relational equity, I want grant readiness, I want this and that, and I am like, okay, let's do it. You know? But you know, you have to know that that is going to cost you. It's not, I think a lot of people think that, oh, it's just writing, but grant writing is so much more than that. I mean, the grant preparedness in itself. Am I creating documents for you because you don't have them? Do you have a whistleblower policy? Is it something that we need to pull together? Do you have a code of ethics for your board? Do you know, these are some of the basic governance things that and foundational things that you need to have before we could even get into, now let's look at your program. What kind of program design and development do we need to do? Is this your first time you've ever run a program? So if that's the case, we need to look at all of these different things. So I'm really, you know, forthcoming with, hey, I want to work with you, but I need you to have a budget, and I need you to be very clear on what you're able to spend, and because that's the only way I can give you the best package.
Mhm.
So kind of around the mulberry bush, but hopefully.
Yeah, you have
Been on
to know
that
where you
track.
are. So I know, and where do you want to go in order to know where to take
Exactly.
you. Right?
Exactly.
Because if you just
Exactly.
ride the car and without a direction, don't have anything on the GPS, and you don't know where you're going, you can be driving, and you'll never arrive. You have to understand,
Well,
when you invest in your organization, you will see the results. You will.
exactly.
There's not
You know,
nothing. God doesn't leave us like do our job and doesn't reward us. You will get rewarded, but you have to invest in the right people and in the right
exactly.
area so that you will get the result.
Well, you know, early on, I used to create, I used to just have this blanket package, right?
Uh-huh.
And I would write this many grants for you, and we would do these things. And again, I was doing that and running, banging my head against the wall because I'm like, nobody's ready. And now I have to produce, and you're not ready. So now I'm spending time creating things to help you get ready. And once I recognized that, I said, no, every package has to be individualized. Every package has to really speak to the core needs of the organization. And sometimes I've had clients walk away from me because I'm like, we got to do this foundational thing, You're not ready for grant writing. You can hire me to get you ready, and then we can go to a phase 2. But we have to start at phase 1. And a lot of people don't like that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. This is very honest, because I've seen our people wasting money hiring someone to write their grants when they are not ready. And either, like, there are two type of people. Like, some people are really ethical and everything, but they just don't know. They don't, they're not experienced grant writers, so they don't know what exactly to look for. Or people who, okay, they want to pay, like, maybe they will run away if I tell them I need all of these stuff. But I appreciate, like, how do you deal with these people who comes to you, the great people? You don't waste their time and money. You tell them the truth. Sometimes people don't like it, but the right people will understand. Like, if they are really serious about their organization, if they are realistic, if they understand the business game, because actually, like I said, like, nonprofit is a business. You have to run it as a business. So that's how you have to think about, and you have to appreciate the honesty. And people, we don't want to take your money just to take your money. If you're not eligible, it's not eligible to do something, we'll tell you, you have to do this. Actually, this is why you created a lot of programs around this. And for myself, this is why I'm doing this masterclass, because I want you to understand what do you really have to do before wasting your money in other stuff that you could use it for something else. So I appreciate that you're being honest with people. This is what I love working with you, Rozetta.
Thank you. I want to say to that, though, I often get, well, how am I going to get money? If it's not going to be grant, how am I going to get money? And you kind of alluded to it earlier, but it's this idea of, what streams of revenue do you have? You mentioned investments, but there's also annual fundraisers. Of course, making sure that your board is active and fiscally providing, but annual fundraisers. What are you doing? Is it a dinner? Is it a gala? There's an organization in Hawaii. It's a canoe organization. They used to have a gala every year, right? And so it's wonderful, fun gala, great. And then a fresh face came to the board and said, you know what? Instead of, maybe in addition to doing this gala, maybe we could have an annual event of canoe paddling. The canoe paddling event raises more money for the organization than the annual gala does, so, but again, there is a stream of revenue. There's a stream of revenue that goes to your operating budget and not necessarily to your program budget. I think a lot of times I hear, and especially here in Africa, I've heard people don't like to give. But I want to say that it really is, we have to model giving. and make it something that is just a natural thing to do, because your community, they live in the community, they're shopping in the community, people are doing all the things in the community, and probably somewhere along the line using your services. So giving them an opportunity to give back to what you do is a wonderful stream of revenue that you don't have to count towards a program. It goes right to your operating budget. And when I think about that, that's how you build the capacity to pay your accountant, your bookkeeper, your grant writer, your program. You know, that's how you begin to build those initial funds up, and actually continuously have those funds, because you're not just dependent on grants. One of the things that it even blows my mind, even as a grant writer, but only 25% of your overall budget should come from grants.
Exactly.
So that's 75% of this pie that you have to account for. Where does that come from? How are you making that happen? And, you know, as you said, go on. Well, and you said earlier, investments, okay? Those have investments, but what else are you doing? That is one piece of the pie, and that could be a large piece or a small piece. I don't really know. It depends on your culture, your organization, just the culture of the organization, you know, so and I could go on and on about that.
Yeah, I know, right? Speaking to the point of people don't give, actually, I was reading statistics. People in America gives $500 in average, $500 a month for nonprofits. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how much money they make. People love to give, but how can they choose your organizations? There's a lot of organization out there. If I might know you and I know you have an organization, but then I have, for example, Rozetta comes and asks me to support her cause. I mean, I will forget about you because you didn't come and ask me, and I will support Rozetta. And also, if I don't see anything what you're doing, if you don't show me, if you're not out there like showing me like what's there, you're not communicating what you're doing for me, and Rozetta is communicating, and then also comes to ask me to support. If I'm donating $500, I'll donate it to Rozetta. And even better, if Rozetta have a recurring program, right? If she has, okay, like, would you want to give $500 a month? And, you know, and I was like, I might not be thinking even like to give $500 a month, but because she's asking, I might go and look at them. Oh, let's see, maybe yes, maybe like I'll tell her, no, I cannot give $500 a month, but I can give 300 or 100. Now, even if I say 100 a month, look how 100 a month for 12 months, how much is that? $1,200 versus $500 I was going to give her for one time. So you have to do this for your organization. You have to talk to people in order. People donate. People love to donate, but they want you. You have to be top in mind. Like in business, you have to be in front of people so they know like what you're doing. Same thing for your organization is even more important to do that. So that's what you have to do. And that's what actually a lot of these like is going to be in my masterclass this coming Wednesday. So make sure to register. And if you want to talk to Rozetta also, she has a discovery call link in her link tree, right? And you can also, it's in the comments. So feel free to book for her. I want to ask you one question, Rozetta, because Will is also asking a follow-up question. So he's asking, do you have a beginner or startup package? Second year in the startup, still trying to get off the ground, still self-funding, have many pieces together, need to schedule consultation. Please do. Like, I'll let you speak to that. Also register for this masterclass that we have. There's a lot of information, but in order to get grants, you need to schedule with Rozetta because that's what her expertise is. Like, go ahead, Rozetta, answer him.
Well, again, it really depends. That's a great question. Thank you. It depends on where you are. So once we have our discovery call and we talk, we can really identify what you need, and then I'll be able to better speak to what kind of package we can create for you. Typically, what I like to do is I like one-year contracts with my clients, because to be honest, it takes a good 3 months to a quarter to really understand what your organization does, who you are, what's your why. It takes us some time to understand that. And so within that time, we are not only helping you potentially build a strategic plan, and then from that strategic plan, we're building funding plans. We're also moving into, starting to create a funding calendar. So we take those 3 months and we're reading everything about you. We know your organization. We may even be doing program design, looking at where are the pukas, where are the holes in your program? Because if you give me something to read and I'm like, what do you do? I don't understand. If I'm having that same problem, I can guarantee you a funder is like, what do they do? I don't understand. So we're looking at those things. And probably one of the most important things is, how do you monitor and evaluate? How do you really truly know you're making an impact? I remember there was a time where we'd be like, pre and post test. Well, what does that even mean? How are you, okay, you did a pre and post test, but did you do a 6-month follow-up? Did you do X, Y, Z? So you're really being able to create those things for you to help you be funder attractive, because really that's what it's about, being attractive to the funder. So again, I gave you a lot of information just to say, it depends on every organization. Like I said, it is very much so customized. But I did mention 1-year programs that are contracts that I like to go into so that I have time to know you and then be able to write for you. And even if that writing, if you're a small organization, if that writing, it consists of, okay, we're putting out 2 grants a month or maybe a grant a month, and you know what, it's $5,000, it's $10,000, whatever the case may be. You also have to remember, we're building relational equity. We're showing, we're putting ourselves out there for the ask, to be able to ask for more money. As Nora said earlier, it's that idea, if I'm coming to her and I ask her for $500 and then say, but would you like to give it every month? It's different than just turning in a grant and saying, fund me, So I train you and your staff on how to feel comfortable to go to those funders and have that conversation. Hey, this is who I am now. I've only been doing this for about a year, but check me out. And this is how much money I have right now. But I'm going to send you something every year, so you will remember me every year. You'll be like, oh, it's time for that annual report, or it's time for whatever the case may be. So it is very much so individualized.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of attracting funders, actually, I work with a nonprofit organization. Before they never had any grants. They were doing just individual donations for years, and they were doing so many programs, a lot, in America and internationally. And they were doing so much program, and they had the staff actually, and they're paying staff. They're even having a very good medical insurance for their staff, and they are nonprofits, yes. And they were only supported online from the community also. That's the only support. But because they were doing a very good job, like in certain program in certain area, one of the funders actually reached out, spoke to them, and ended up getting over $500,000 in grants, just because they saw the great work they're doing, and they saw that they are really have the capacity and the will to do and to report. Because one thing, maybe I feel like a lot of people who never got grant, they don't know, grants, even if you get like $500,000 grants, you're not getting that boom, throwing that on you. They give it you into a portion, and you have to report for the first portion in order to give you the second portion. And especially when you get to the USAID and other funding.
Exactly. It's interesting that you brought that up, because that it kind of goes back to the point of transparency. Are you able, two things. Funders are looking at how you manage the little, and because how you manage that little amount of money you have is a clear indicator of how you will manage a large amount of money. And so being able to be visible both in your community, online, and putting yourself out there, asking people to donate, saying, hey, this is what we're doing, showing up, you get on the radar of other organizations, sending out that annual report. I've worked with so many organizations, and one of the first things I'm asking them is, hey, do you guys have an annual report? And they're like, well, we're a little bit. And I'm like, no, get an annual report, because every person, you can do a mass mailing and send this annual report out to every person that's ever donated to you, to every funder that you think you may want to even apply for, that somehow your missions align, whatever the case may be. But really putting yourself out there, put it on your website. If you don't have a website, put it on your link tree. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying, put yourself out there, because like you had mentioned, you don't necessarily need to have an abundance of grants. You need to know how to communicate with funders, and be it if those funders are grant funders, sponsorships, corporate, it doesn't matter. You need to know how to communicate with them and do it clearly and effectively. And you need to be able to show that your program is worthy, and you have the capacity, you have the time, you have all the things necessary to be successful at it. You know, I think people hear the word grants and they're like, free money. And I'm like, only if you got nothing but time to give away, because you are busy. You know, grant writing in itself it's a lot. It is the researching. 80% of grant writing is research. 80%. So that is researching best practices. That's researching is this really innovative? I mean, because we all think we got an innovative idea, and we might, but is it really? You know?
Yeah.
So
and how are you communicating that?
Exactly. You know, and so then you're writing the proposals, and then the monitoring. Like you mentioned, you get a $500,000 grant, and they're giving it to you in portions. They want to know, okay, I just gave you $500,000. How did you spend that? Can you tell me, how do you know you made an impact? How do you know, how are you going to follow up later? They want to know every step of the way. So I tell people, grant money is not free money. Now, this is the money that you are going to probably work the hardest for.
Yeah.
You will probably work the hardest for grant money.
It is an expensive money. So you have to have the money to get those money.
Exactly.
And make sure to join the masterclass so you can learn how to get the money to get those money. And also the narrative reports, like when you have individual donations, okay, you have to have your bookkeeping in place. You have to have all of these, like, budgeting, forecasting, everything. You have to have that, but there's no specific. So your community is going to tell you, okay, just if you show them some pictures, some numbers, it's not as specific as the grant writing. So you have to have a professional for that. Even if you have in-house grant writer, she might not have the relationship that for someone like Rozetta has, like, because we are people at the end of the day. If Rozetta, she's writing all these grants for all these organizations, and now she built, I'm sure, a lot more than your in-house grant writer. So she can, just because Rozetta did it, Rozetta knows you're a good candidate. And because she also looks for how ready you are, she doesn't just like take any organization, take it for the funders. Now they trust her. Now they know if Rozetta brought someone that organization have the capacity to manage, and Rozetta is going to be engaged with them, and she knows like to make sure they have that good budget, a good bookkeeping, a good grant management in the grounds and on papers, and they will have the compliance list met because they trust Rozetta, because they had the experience with them. She's selective on who to work with. So even if you have your in-house grant writer, you might still need to have a grant writer like Rozetta, because her word, I'm sure it's gonna have a lot of great weight, like with the funders that she's worked with, because of her selective process.
Right. or even to a place of, we can even go as far as training. I have so much information, Nora, my brain is full of information. I have so much information in my brain. And at the end of the day, I know I'm not going to take it with me. So one of the things that I really have a passion for is training grant writers. I want every grant writer to want to have, I want them to have all of this information.
Yes, yes.
I want them to know
yeah,
how to
please do your
this.
masterclass.
Yes,
we need that.
So even if it, as far as training and reviewing and even monitoring and evaluation, coming in and looking at it and evaluating your programs. How does this really work for you? Is this real? You know, is so many ways that we can engage, because they're just different things that every organization is unique. Even though they have a lot of the similar needs, they are unique in how they execute their heart work. You know what I mean? Because I really do believe nonprofits, they are doing hard work. So
yeah. So Rebecca asking, how important is internal local fundraising over international, if it's at all?
I believe, thank you, Rebecca, for that question. That's an amazing question. Internal local fundraising is key. It really is, because if your organization, if no one in your community wants to give to your organization, I don't want to give to your organization either. You know, so really being able to, it's important for two reasons. It puts your organization out there. It tells your community, this is who I am, this is what we're doing, and this is why you should support me. This is why you should want to be a part of what I'm doing. It also, if you're doing that kind of internal fundraising, it also sets you up to work with other organizations and create relationships with larger companies that are working and may even possibly have corporate and social responsibility initiatives in your area that they may want to know about you. I think a lot of the issue is that people don't know that you're out here doing the good work. So you have to say it, you have to share it. And not all the time is Facebook or IG or not all the time are those things, you know, the best way to do it. You have to understand your community. How do they best like to be communicated with? If I'm going to go set up a booth, you better believe any place in every organization I've worked with, if I'm setting up a booth, I am bringing a box, a jug, a something, and it says donations. I am putting it out there, letting you know that this is what it's, that we're grateful for your support, because we are your community. We are part of your community. And it ripples out. When people know about you on the small scale, it ripples out.
Mm-hmm. And your community doesn't have to be your local, like around your houses. It can be your online community who already knows you. Mm-hmm. Like you have friends from high school, you have friends, especially like if they know what they're doing, you have to reach out to these. They know you. So half of the trust is there. You just have to show them what you're doing. So it can be in your neighborhood, and it can be on your local community online, or just your sphere of influence, whoever you know, or someone who introduced you to someone. That's half of the way done, right? Because they trust that person who introduced you. So a lot of way, it can be a lot of way. But of course, like if you're doing something in the school district you're in, you want to go look for those people who are benefiting from the school district. Those should be supporting you the most, because they know the pain you are in. But then you can have the more power to go and ask others, and then like eventually to get into the grants when you have the money and the fund to pay. So, but you have to get those. And now like everyone is kind of transferring half online, but still, like I love personal event. Like you said, like you always have your box, your box of donation. I actually, I don't know, a lot of people might not do that. I started my own organization back, a few years ago, but then I decided like, okay, I was shy and I wasn't willing to ask people for donation, even though when I was helping other organizations, I don't mind asking and I would be strong and like show them everything. I will do it. But when I started my own, because I wanted to support, I was so shy to do it. I know, like, it forced me to just shut down. I'm like, okay, I don't want to do it anymore. But if I was willing to ask, I mean, that would solve the problem. I would have my organization now. But yeah,
that's part of the problem. A lot of people are shy to ask the question. A lot of people are like, oh, but I'm in this situation and I'm sure, especially within your community, we're all in the same boat, but you don't really know that. And you don't know unless you ask. That's, I think, a superpower that I have. I'm like, I'm going to ask. The worst you can tell me is no.
Exactly. What's going to happen then, right?
Exactly.
We don't like rejection, human being.
But here's the thing, a no is just another opportunity for the next person to come and say yes. Exactly. I mean, you don't just stop after you get that initial no. And like I said, if your community is not supporting you, it really is a far-fetched idea to think that someone who is not ever going to benefit from your services, from what you're doing, that they would have that willingness and really gung-ho-ness to support your organization. Start with your community, however that is, if it's online, if it's whatever, but start in that nucleus to say, support me here, and let it ripple out. Let people know who you are through the good work that you do.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm going to give you a lot of tools to help you do that in the masterclass. So make sure you register for the masterclass, and make sure also you book a discovery call with Rozetta so she can tell you where to go and where to start. Actually, it's almost an hour. We have 5 minutes left. So if you have any other question, please put it in the chat so we can answer your question while we're here. And if you're watching this in the replay, #replay, and let us know actually if you have any question. We'll make sure to answer it, or to have another event, another live to answer your question as well. And we will make sure to let you know ahead of time that when are we having that. We actually sent that in our email list yesterday that we are gonna be joining. We didn't have enough time because we just said that like 2 days ago, and then we got into it. But for next time, like if you have more questions, we'll make sure to let you know ahead of time. And you will also have that in the replay, and we're going to put it on YouTube. Also subscribe if you are on YouTube to have more of that. And if you have any more questions, let us know what you want to hear about so we can prepare for you. We can talk to you about this. So Rebecca is asking again, how important is collaboration with fellow NGO in the same civic sector? It's really important. I can't say how important it is. Really, really important. Like, you must have this relationship with other organizations. If it's larger than you, they can fund you to reach area, for example, they cannot reach, or because you have a strength on something, they can fund you, or just with the relationship you get to other relationship. And I'll let also Rozetta tap into that and say, like, well, what do you think?
Well, one of the things about collaboration is if it's 4 nonprofits or 3 nonprofits coming together in the same sector doing great work, you'll find that there are places that they never intersect. So how about come together and create a program that it all intersects? Once you go on ahead and write a grant, you are able to say, not only did we come together and collaborate, we're able to reach, for example, if it's a youth organization, we're able to reach youth for health, any kind of job placement, mental health issues, whatever the case may be. And then you can say, look at the impact we're making. Me alone, I'm only making an impact of 100 youth. This one's making 100 youth and making an impact of 100 youth. Together, we are impacting 300 youth, and we are able to show we're able to reach more people in our community this way through additional resources, additional educational tools, trainings, whatever the case may be. But when you collaborate, you are opening yourself up on a grander scale of of who really wants to fund you and who will be taking a look at what you're doing. Collaboration is key for grant writing.
Let me ask you this, can two organizations or more like come and reach out the same funder with the same grants application, or do they have to do it separately and just include that in the proposal? This is a technical question.
So if it sounds like I believe what I hear you saying or asking me is if they could be, they're all coming with the same application, but they're individual organizations. In that event, I would say I wouldn't do that, because you're going to find somebody's going to get disqualified if 3 people are coming with the same exact application. So if you all are coming with the same application, pull it all together and say, this is what I'm going to do. This is what this X organization is going to do. This is what Y organization is going to do. And this is what Z is going to do. And together we will accomplish this larger goal. There was an organization that I worked with in Hawaii. It was the oddest collaboration. I think that sometimes people are like, what? So it was the YWCA, which dealt with domestic violence and women's issues. They also did, I think, they did therapy and different types of counseling services. Then we had an organization called Malama Pono, which dealt with primarily health, but they had a very unique intersection, whereas they did counseling for LGBTQ, people with HIV and AIDS. So they had a real specific niche. And then hospice, they were, of course, end of life care. So what they did, they came together and they wrote a grant to build capacity. They each needed to be able to share about their program. They needed to be able to, their programs individually. They wanted to look at those 3 things: domestic violence, HIV, AIDS, LGBTQ, and death. Those are stigmas in the community that no one wants to talk about. So they were able to come together and have conversations about it. Take the edge off of, they were destigmatizing those kind of uncomfortable topics. And they were able to write a grant to be able to do that, to educate the community, as well as have pieces of grant writing and whatever they needed. It was an amazing collaboration. Probably one of the first times I'd ever seen, an organizations come together like that. But it made perfectly good sense, because it was the common theme of nobody wants to talk about these things. Yeah. Everyone's afraid to have these conversations. So let's do it for them.
Yeah, exactly. And like, I remember 2011, when the Arab Spring happened, this is when I got to nonprofits actually. And a lot of people like wanted to help Syria cause, like want to help the refugees, want to help different people in different area, and education and like housing, a lot of things, orphans, because a lot of orphans like reduced from the conflicts. So a lot of people like they want to help, like coming from different area, but they live here in the US. They came to, everyone started their own organization, and some people got mad about it. Like everyone wants to start their organization and there's no focus, but actually it turned out to be very good, because that person will be able to reach this certain area that the other person is not able to reach. And then eventually, like after like a couple of years, like everyone comes together and collaborate, and they see a need. So the other organization, if we have too much funding, then we can support people in other area through this organization, because also there's a lot of law, especially when dealing internationally. You want to really be careful about like who are you dealing with. You have to trust that person. So if you have someone who knows, like in your community or close, like here in the US, and you know exactly who's that person is, you can trust that person to do the program overseas, because you trust that person, but that person knows that person, so you do everything through them. So me personally, I have a lot of people reaching out from overseas saying, we need this. I'm like, I have an organization I trust 100%. I tell them, okay, go to this person. And if they say yes, I will be happy to donate to them to help you. That's it. So it's really important actually like to be careful on that. And when people come together, great things happen. Like you said, whether locally, internationally, everything, because no one person have ability to help everywhere, but we are human beings, like everyone comes from different background. We have different capacity, we have different experience. So it's really important, like in all aspects, actually.
Well, I'd like to kind of chime in on what you said about this idea of trust. As an international grant writer, that is one of the things that I really like to talk to the organizations that I'm working with about. Is you are kind of coming, especially here in some of the organizations in Nigeria, South Africa, these different places, being able to say, let's create a system of full transparency, right? Because not everybody has that opportunity to know somebody that knows somebody. But if we can create a foundation that is full, that is transparent, that is clear, and this is how you're setting yourself up, this is what your organization does from start to finish. I like the idea that, you know, your organization is so squeaky clean, you can hand an auditor your keys and go to lunch, because you know that from your HR policies all the way to your financial policies, that everything is above board. So I think that there are so many organizations, both in the United States and abroad, that are doing amazing work, but we still have to, there still needs to be this learning curve and this understanding of the importance of transparency, regardless to where you are, because, you know, I've seen organizations in the United States. I'm like, wait, what did you do with my money? You know, so.
Yeah, and nonprofit, you know, nothing private, everything is public, you know.
and if it's not, you know, coming from a place where that may not be the case for everyone in, you know, these different countries that I'm working in, let's create a culture that says, okay, this is how I'm going to make my nonprofit transparent, you know, because if you can create that culture, it only starts with one. You only need one person to truly to say, we're going to do it like this, and people will follow once they see the success you've had from this idea of transparency. So yeah, I wanted to point that out.
Awesome. We went almost 15 minutes over time, but we can speak forever. Like, that's why I love to do lives with Rozetta, because we can speak forever. So, so there's one comment, I just want to read it. Hi, Rozetta, trust you are good. My pleasure meeting you in Nigeria. That's Ayoho Victor. I don't know if I said the first name
Victor.
Correct.
Oh, hello, Victor. Thank you. Thank you for joining.
Yeah, so if you have any questions, still put it below. If you're watching on YouTube, also put it below. We'll be reading all comments, and we'll answer everything for you, either in the comment or we'll have another conversation, and would love to have you. So yes. I will let everyone go, and thank you so much. It's like almost 11:15 here. Okay. So we went 15 minutes over time, but we enjoyed talking to you. Thank you so much, Rozetta, for being here with me. Thank you.
It was good to see you, Nora. Thank you.
Good to see you. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Yep. Bye.